Mi chiamo Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit Medinde Ojirafo Kwesi Ranehempata Akan. Aquamumain Amaruka Etifi Mu Ojirafo Ojiramain Mu. Greetings to all Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit people, meaning Africans, black people. My name is Ojirafo Kwesi Ranehempata Akan. Ojirafo of the Akwamu Nation in North America. Within Ojiramai, the purified nation Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit people, African black people in the Western Hemisphere. Yet I say we thank you once again for tuning into our broadcast. We are back broadcasting. Typically we have 4 broadcasts on a weekly basis. On Joda, on Monday nights, we have Akan Nanasom, ancient authentic Akan ancestral religion, where we deal specifically with the Akan expression of ancestral religion. First and foremost, because we are Akan. Secondly, because of the misinformation being propagated regarding Akan cosmology, cultural, ritual practice, and so forth, not only from individuals in the Western Hemisphere, but also from individuals on the continent of Afuraitkaitnit, Africa, who have been infected with Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, white culture, ill, perverse culture in general, and that infection affects their expression of Akan culture and cosmology. So we deal with ancient, authentic Akan ancestral religion, which takes us back to our ancestral origins in ancient Khanat, the Khan land, first land, foremost land, which is a title of ancient Nubia. Our people migrated from ancient Khanat over 2,000 years ago to the western part of the continent of Afuraitkaitnit, and reestablished the Khanat Empire, later called the Ghana Empire. Hundreds of years subsequent to that, we migrated further south towards the savanna and forest belt regions and reestablished Akana civilization in that region, in the region of contemporary Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and Ghana. Centuries subsequent to that, some of our people were taken from those regions as prisoners of war and forced into North Central South America, the Caribbean, and Europe during the Musuo Kessie, the Great Perversity, the enslavement era. And this is how some of our people, as Akan people, ended up in the Western Hemisphere. However, we maintained our ancestral religious practices. We maintain Akanfo Nanasom, ancient, authentic Akan ancestral religion. We therefore see in Suriname, Akan ancestral religion is called Winti, from the Akan term Huinti. In Guyana, Akan ancestral religion is called Komfa, from the Akan term Kumfo. In Jamaica, Akan ancestral religion is called Obia, from the Akan term Obai. In North America, in the United States, Akan ancestral religion is called Hoodoo, from the Akan term Undu, meaning medicine from roots, trees, plant life. Undu also means to become heavy with the spirit through spirit possession and spirit communication. We were thus empowered and guided by the Abosom and Nananon Nsamampo, the deities and our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors of our direct spirogenetic blood circles, to wage war against the whites and their offspring under the practice of Akanfo Nanasom in the Western Hemisphere, and effectively wage war against the whites and their offspring to force the end of enslavement in the Western Hemisphere. So this is what we deal with on Akanfo Nanasom, ancient authentic Akan ancestral religion, on Joda on Monday nights, dealing with Akan cosmology, ritual practice, culture, and so forth. On our Awukuda Kuada Wednesday night broadcast, we have Egwa Marketplace, where we showcase Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit businesses, organizations, and institutions, those who are impacting our community in a positive capacity, those who serve the community with their ancestral religious values, undergirding their service to the community. On Yauda Thursday night, we have Amain-Sim, Affairs of the Nation, where we deal with issues that are confronting us as Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, as an Omain, as a nation, specifically as Ojiramai, the purified Ojira, Omain, nation, mine, west, land of the setting sun. Our designation, Ojiramai, means the purified nation, Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people in the Western Hemisphere. We recognize the reality that a nation is a living, breathing entity, similar to an organ, which is a living, breathing, functional entity that has cells that comprise that organ. As the cells interact harmoniously, They support the organ and the energy governing that organal structure. We are cells within a greater grouping. We were naturally directed by our ancestresses and ancestors, the Nananom, Nsumapo, and the Abosom, the forces in nature, to coalesce in a specific region of the Earth Mother's body, blend ancestral blood circles, interface with the plant life, animal life, mineral life in this region of the Earth Mother's body, interface with the unique expression of the Abosom, the forces in nature, as they manifest in this region of the Earth Mother's body and take on that unique expression of energy. That confluence of events allowed us to forge a unique expression of Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit culture. And therefore, we have that unique expression to draw on when we confront our issues. We use a nationist approach, an Amaniye approach to dealing with our issues. We deal with Amaniye nationism, the purification of nationalism. It is an approach to nation building rooted in our ancestral religious values. So this is what we deal with on Yauda Amain-Sim Affairs of the Nation. This broadcast is called ODWIRA, which means purification. We deal with ancestral religion in its various expressions, no matter what expression we find within our populations around the world. We deal with the purification of culture, purification of cosmology, purification of ritual practice, purification of the understanding of our ancestral religious culture and how it impacts every aspect of our lives. So before we get into the topic, we have a couple of announcements. Our first documentary film, Amarukafo Adebisa, African American Ancestral Divination, where we deal with the forms of oracular divination that we preserved in our blood circles here in the Western Hemisphere, which empowered and guided us to wage war against the whites and their offspring and force the end of enslavement, also empowered and guided us towards the use of medicine and other forms of healing to fortify our people and so forth, these same forms of oracular divination that we employ today in the hoodoo tradition, which is Akan, ancestral religion in North America, the Juju tradition, which is Yoruba ancestral religion in North America, the Wanga tradition, which is Ovambo, ancestral religion in North America, which is part of the Gullah constellation, the Voodoo tradition, which is Ewe ancestral religion in North America, the Ngangan tradition, which is Fang ancestral religion in North America. All of these traditions are represented in our film by Rakit Kajara Yaa-Wadjet, Voodoo Queen Kalinda Laveau, Wabet Seshat Tut Yaa-Wadjet, Mama Mawusi Ashakir, and myself. All five of us are in the film representing our various traditions. We've been showcasing or screening the film in various cities over the past number of months, and now the film is also available on our Vimeo site. Online, you can rent it online and watch it on demand. You can also purchase it online and watch it on demand. We also have the DVD available. Our second announcement, which is very important. Some of you have seen there's a fundraising effort put forward by Ama Asenye and Jojo Asona. What that fundraising effort is dealing with is their specific issue, a specific legal issue. The brother Jojo was stopped by the police a number of days ago for a broken tail light, and then they ran his information and found that he had an outstanding warrant from a number of years ago in California. He is now based in around Atlanta, Georgia. What took place was there was a firearm possession charge back in 2014. It was not a violent offense. So what they did was, instead of giving him jail time, since it wasn't a serious offense, they simply gave him probation. And he started that process. That was a number of years ago, and he was going through that process. Eventually, a number of years later, he migrated from California, came to Georgia, connected with Ama. They married and so forth. They're building a life. They're both resolutionary individuals, as well as now as a resolutionary union, focused and disciplined on nation building and so forth. What came up in this this running of the background was there was apparently traffic violation, a driving violation, a misdemeanor violation. They're saying that that caused him to violate his probationary status. And that came up just recently. So now they're trying to extradite him from Georgia all the way to California just to face that misdemeanor traffic violation, driving violation. Amma has talked to a number of different lawyers. She can't retain a lawyer in Georgia because the case originated in California, so she must find an attorney in California. She talked to a number of attorneys in California. They said since this was a old charge and it wasn't a violent offense and he had already started the probationary process, and because the traffic or driving violation was just a misdemeanor traffic violation that they said caused the probation to be violated, they could take care of that rather easily. The only problem is most of these attorneys ask for $5,000 as a retainer up front. The other piece is that they only have a certain number of days before they decide to extradite him or ship him from Georgia to California. Of course, it makes no sense for them to ship him from Georgia to California just to face a traffic violation, misdemeanor charge, and so forth. In the process, he would end up being taken away. He's already been taken away for over a week. He could lose his job and so forth. It just doesn't make sense. They said it's basically a very easy case. So all she needs to do is raise the funds to retain a lawyer, actually a lawyer in California, so they can take care of the court proceedings in California so they won't have to extradite JoJo to California to deal with that process so he won't lose his employment. So you will see the fundraiser site. It's on the fundraiser platform. It's not on GoFundMe. It's on Fundraiser, fundrazr.com/Jojo Asona, which is JoJoAsona. Fundraiser.com/Jojo Asona. And you can contribute. They need to raise the funds as soon as possible so they can retain an attorney before they try to extradite him to California for this minor charge. So we appreciate the people who have supported already, but please take note and share that information. You can look on our Facebook page, Kwesi Akan on Facebook, as well as Ojirafo Akan on Facebook, and you will see that we have posted the fundraiser, the crowdfund effort for this, for JoJo, and we posted it a number of times and we will continue to post it. Please contribute. Any contribution amount is enough. If we have 100, 200 people contributing $10, $20, then that will put them close to, $2,000, $2,500. They'll be very close to being able to retain an attorney. So, and then once you make a contribution, then please share the information. Some people just share the information, but we need people to contribute first, then share the information. Once again, you'll see it on our Facebook page and in the link for this broadcast. So we want to get into our topic, and you will see that we just recently posted an article on our blog, our ODWIRA blog. Excuse me. The article is called AHOODENSEM, Health, Weight Loss, and Ancestral Ritual. Abosom Yaa-Wadjet. So we want to get into this information and examine this piece in detail. First and foremost, there's a great deal of financial and emotional exploitation of the Afuraitkaitnit African Black woman in connection to health, wellness, self-esteem, and more. In the area of diet and weight loss, some estimate that it is a $66 billion industry, billion with a B. It is based upon creating emotional and mental dependence, which leads to financial exploitation. Moreover, most often the desired outcomes are not realized. So this is the foundation of this industry, this multi-billion-dollar industry, and many of those billions are coming from Afuraitkaitnit, Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, African Black people. Their desire is to create an emotional and mental dependence, making us believe that we are indebted and need them in order to reach our optimal health goals and so forth. But you must be emotionally and mentally dependent on the industry, or else the industry falls apart. Many people are aware that a number of years ago I was practicing as a personal trainer as a side, occupation just to generate additional revenue at a major health club chain and so forth. So even in that field, I was able to experience and see how that same field is operating in the same fashion. They direct trainers to direct people into this emotional and mental dependence, believing that they need a trainer in order to achieve their optimal health goals and so forth. And that keeps people dependent and coming back and spending money and so forth. Of course, the way we engage the training process, we give the people what they need and then they go out on their own and do what they need. They don't need to keep coming back. But this is the way the exploitation operates. Now, for us as Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, as in all areas of life, we have an ancestral values-based approach, an ancestral religious values-based approach to what in Akan is called AHOODENSEM. And the Akan term AHOODENSEM is a general term for health. Now, literally, the term is comprised of Ehun, which means self, and specifically in this case, body, and Eden, which means hard. Thus, one who is considered quote unquote healthy in Akan culture is one who has a hard Eden, meaning toned body. This references resilience internally, meaning toned organs, toned glands, toned bones, toned tissues, toned blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and so forth. So toned, you were talking about the resilience internally, but also resilience externally. However, when we're talking about our ancestral religious values-based approach to all aspects of life, when we reference the term Eden, meaning hard, as quote-unquote toned, it also references tuned. This is a holistic awareness rooted in our ancestral religious values. For example, a wind chime, when clear of any debris, internally or externally, can receive the wind and resound harmonious vibrations reflective of the harmony in nature. When our bodies are toned or tuned internally and externally, they are instruments for the divine life force energy of Ra and Ra'et, the creator and creatress, also called Inyokumpon and Inyokunton in Akan, or Odumare and Oshumare in the Yoruba tradition. Da and Idahuedo in the Vodoun tradition. The divine life force energy of Ra and Ra'et, the creator and creatress, resonates through our bodies when our bodies are instruments, when our bodies are toned and reverberate and resound the divine living energy and harmonious energy and vibrations of the creator and creatress. Now that divine living energy, when it dwells within us, is called the Ba, which is the spirit for males, Ba'et, the spirit for females. When debris is present internally or externally, if you had debris present within a wind chime, internally or externally, then the wind can't circulate through the chime effortlessly and resound those harmonious vibrations. When there is debris within our instrument, internally or externally, then that capacity to resound and reverberate the harmonious vibrations of the divine life force energy of Ra and Ra'et that animates us, enlivens us, it becomes compromised. We are not resounding the energy of divinity optimally in that context, and therefore harmonious interactions, receptivity, and more are hampered. We can also use the example of the string of a guitar. The string of a guitar is pulled tight and is toned or tuned. Then when you pluck the string, it resounds and reverberates harmonious vibrations that fill the atmosphere. if the string is weak and, loose and so forth, untoned, and therefore untuned, then when you try to pluck the string, there are no harmonious vibrations that resound and reflect and reverberate the harmony in nature, and it's not able to project those vibrations out into the sphere of activity or sphere of influence that you are within. However, when you're toned or tuned, then you can reverberate and resound those harmonious vibrations. Our bodies are therefore those kinds of instruments. So it's not just about looking a certain way, but when your body is toned externally or internally, we're talking about being tuned externally and internally to be a vessel, an uncombre, a shrine for the Ba or the Bayat, the divine living energy, that divine spirit placed within you by Ra and Ra'at, the creator and creatress. Now, our ancestral culture, Amamre, directs us to align every thought, intention, and action with divine order every moment of every day. And we reference divine order as Nyamewa, Nyame Nsheshe. Nsheshe, in the Akan language, is the term for order or arrangement. Nyamewa is the great mother. Nyame is the great father. Together, Nyamewa and Nyame, the great mother and father, work together harmoniously as two halves of the great divine whole, which we reference as the supreme being. Nyamewa is Amenet from ancient Kemet. Nyame is Amen or Amen from ancient Kemet. So Amenet, Amen, Sesher in ancient Kemet is the divine plan or arrangement, Sesher of Amenet and Amen. In our Akan culture, that is Nyamewa, Nyame, Nsheshe, divine order. So our ancestral culture is the divine acceptance, the law or love of order, and the divine rejection, the hatred, the repulsion of disorder and its purveyors. When we talk about Maranechi, divine law, love, and divine hate, because law and love is the same word and same concept in our culture, so divine law, love, and divine hate are the expansive and contractive poles of divine order. You receive and accept those things, objects, deeds, and entities that are harmonious, and you reject those things, objects, deeds, or entities that are disharmonious. Your circulatory system and your respiratory system, you breathe in oxygen, you breathe in the air and take in the oxygen and so forth. When you consume food, you take in the nutrients and so forth, but you also breathe in bacteria, you breathe in viral agents and so forth. When you're consuming food, there's also bacteria that can be harmful to you and so forth. So you accept that which is natural and harmonious. But then your immune and lymphatic systems, what they do is they find that those bacterial agents, those entities that will cause disorder, that develop cancerous cells within you, they isolate them, they kill them, expel them from the body. So there's an acceptance and there's a rejection. There's the law or love, the acceptance, and the hate, the rejection, the repulsion. And of course, in our book, we show the etymology of the term hate, going back to the term in ancient Kemet, ket, which means to destroy, to reject, to destroy, to repel. And there are deities of divine het, or hate. Herubadeti is the male divinity of divine het, or hate, rejection, repulsion. Sekhmet is the female divinity of divine het, or hate, rejection, or repulsion. They govern the immune and lymphatic systems in our bodies, as well as the immune and lymphatic system within the great divine body of the Supreme Being. So, we align every thought, intention, and action with divine order every moment of every day. It is in this manner that we are able to execute our divine function in creation. When we make legitimate mistakes, we engage the ritual process, the ritual incorporation of divine law, and the ritual restoration of divine balance are the expansive and contractive poles of Nanasom, which is our term for Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, or African ancestral religion. No matter what form it takes, wherever Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, or African black people exist in the world, whether we're on the continent of Afuraka, Afuraikat is Akan, or Yoruba, Maasai, Kosa, Basa, Fula, Eve, Ovambo, Fan, or if we're in the Western Hemisphere, practicing hoodoo. Hoodoo's the Akan tradition in North America, Juju, the Yoruba tradition in North America, Voodoo, the Eve tradition in North America, Wanga, the Ovambo tradition in North America, and Gengan, the Fang tradition in North America, Grigri, the Bambara tradition in North America, and so forth. No matter where we exist in the world, Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, or African ancestral religion, which we call as a general term Nana Som, is the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance. That means through ritual, we incorporate those things, objects, deeds, and entities that we need in order to harmonize our thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. And through ritual, we reject those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to reject in order to restore balance to our lives when imbalance has occurred. So our culture, our way of life, is the divine acceptance of order, the divine rejection of disorder. So as we move through life, we align every thought, intention, and action with divine order every moment of every day, and this is how we function optimally, and we carry our energy into the world and bring our unique expression of energy to our Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit communal body. When we make legitimate mistakes, we engage the ritual process so we can incorporate law and restore balance so we can get back on track with aligning every thought, intention, and action every moment of every day with divine order. This is how ancestral religion impacts every aspect of our lives when we're seeking every moment of every day to align every thought, intention, and action with divine order. So this covers all areas of life. Our ancestral religious values encompass all areas of life, inclusive of health and wellness. Our approach to health is thus rooted in our ancestral religious values. We're talking about being a toned or tuned instrument for the divine living energy of Ra and Ra'et in Yonkumpon and in Yonkunton to resonate through and reverberate through, so those harmonious vibrations, that unique configuration of harmonious vibrations emanating from our instrument, can contribute to the harmony, healing, and edification of the Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit communal body. And because our instruments are different, we have a different configuration of sound vibrations emanating from us. Just like when you have different instruments in an orchestra. You can pick up a trumpet, you can pick up a trombone, you can pick up a tuba and blow in each instrument. You're the same person with the same lungs capacity, with the same air. However, when you blow through a trumpet, it has a certain configuration of sounds. You blow through a trombone, it sounds different. You blow through a tuba, it sounds different. If you blow through a clarinet, it sounds different. A saxophone and so forth. The same air, however, the air is moving through a different instrument, a different structure. And therefore, the vibrations emanating from that structure, that instrument, is different. No one looks exactly alike unless you're identical twins and so forth. No one has your specific structure. No one has your specific spiritual anatomy, your unique configuration. So therefore, when the divine living energy circulates through your instrument, there's a unique configuration of sound vibrations and energetic vibrations emanating from you. And since you're a child of a specific divinity and also coming through a specific matriclan and patriclan with divine energy associated with those clans, there's a unique configuration of divine energy emanating from you as an instrument that you are to contribute to the Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit community as a toned instrument. But when we're not toned or tuned internally and or externally, then that capacity to project that divine living energy to heal ourselves, to be receptive ourselves and project our energy to other Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit people and build a bridge of harmonious energy so we can interface harmoniously, or to project that energy to plant life, animal life, mineral life, so we can function harmoniously, or build that bridge of energy to our Nananom Unsaman, for our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors, so we can be receptive to their guidance and wisdom and interface with them harmoniously, to project our energy, build an energetic bridge to the Abosom, the forces in nature, Instead of just being impacted by them, for example, the spirits that animate the sun, we're impacted by the sun's energy. But when we connect with the spirit that animates the sun, we're empowered and we're illuminated and we're guided properly and so forth. And that deals with other aspects of creation as well. If we're not toned internally and or externally, then the capacity to build those bridges of energy so we can have a harmonious exchange is compromised. However, when we are toned or tuned, then that's what we're participating in on a daily basis. So our ancestral religious values and the cosmological foundation born of those values and expressed through those values and so forth, that covers all areas of life. However, and therefore, when it comes to weight loss, as we say in the article, the veneer of white ill culture and its corollary exploitation must be removed. When we talk about weight loss and optimal health and so forth, we must approach it from that cosmological foundation as we just laid out. We can't approach it from that cosmological foundation when we're hampered mentally and psychologically with the false ideas and concepts of white ill culture. That white ill culture that's designed to make us dependent emotionally and mentally, and therefore ripe for financial exploitation. So first, we need to deal with truisms. First, it is not difficult to lose weight and keep it off. The industry must make you believe that it is in order to make you dependent upon them emotionally, mentally, and thus ripe for financial exploitation. You have absolute control over everything that you engage in. When you understand you have a Ba or Bayat, a divine living energy placed within you by the Creator and Creatress, by Ra and Rayat, that spirit called Ba in males and Bayat in Afurakani females, and the Ba within Afurakani males, and of course that's within our population only. That divine energetic link to the Creator and Creatress, then you can wield that energy directed to your arms, legs, for action, for movement and so forth, directed to your mind and so forth, so you can project that energy outward and connect with other Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, connect with the ancestresses and ancestors, connect with the forces in nature, the Abosom, the divinities, connect with plant life, animal life, and mineral life in a harmonious fashion, so you can learn how to extract medicine from plant life and mineral life and animal life and so forth. When you understand that you have that cosmologically, then you can't fall into this belief that you can't engage in certain behaviors and you can't change your behaviors. We just mentioned earlier that when we engage our culture, we accept that which is harmonious and we reject that which is disharmonious. And when we make legitimate mistakes, we engage the ritual process to ritually incorporate law and ritually restore balance so we can get back in alignment with divine order. That means it is not difficult in our culture to lose weight and keep it off or engage in any behavior. The industry, again, must make you believe it is to make you emotionally and mentally dependent and ripe for financial exploitation. Number 2, you do not need to spend money on their diet plans, groups, systems, surgeries, trainers, none of that. Your capacity to achieve health and wellness is free. It's within you. It is internal. You are not dependent on anyone outside of you. We are not making ourselves dependent on our enemies, the whites and their offspring, who only seek to enslave us emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and financially. Number 3, you do not have to have a special, quote unquote, special kind of discipline to lose weight. Psychologists are employed by advertising companies to craft messages to make you believe falsely that only a certain quote-unquote special kind of individual can be successful, while most people quote-unquote need the assistance of the industry. Why would they employ psychologists to craft ads, advertisements with regard to these products and programs and so forth They have to plant the seed of doubt and inferiority and helplessness and dependence in your mind so that you will perpetually be a customer, constantly seeking them out, constantly being financially exploited, yet those outcomes that you desire typically are not achieved. But you don't need have to be a special kind of person. If we're conditioned in that fashion, then we look at someone who's, losing weight or developing themselves, becoming strong and toned and tuned and focused and healthy, and they say, well, that person, they're different. They're very focused and disciplined. I wish I had that discipline. I don't have that. That's 100% inaccurate. They have 2 legs and 2 arms and organs and glands. You have 2 legs, 2 arms, organs, and glands. You can do anything that anybody else can do. And when we're rooted in our ancestral religious values and culture, we understand the cosmological foundation of every aspect of our being, which we're going to get into in a couple of minutes. That's a psychological sleight of hand, psychological, quote unquote, magical sleight of hand to make you believe that certain people have discipline and certain others do not. When you have the Ba and the Ba'at, the divine living energy placed within you by the Creator and Creatress, you have the capacity to manifest any behavior that you need to manifest to harmonize your thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. That is your nature. Number 4, every single Black person of any age can be successful in achieving optimal health goals, inclusive of weight loss, through engaging a simple process rooted in our own ancestral culture. We will no longer from this point forward be exploited by our enemies through the $66+ billion industry, emotionally, mentally, or financially. So then we move into who the Abosom, the goddess Yaa, is. And you see this image that we use in the article. The term Abosom in the Akan tradition is the term for deity, male or female, god or goddess. So the Abosom, the goddess Yaa in Akan culture, you see the imagery. Her major title in Khanit and Kamit, Nubia and Egypt, is Yaa-Wadjet. She also has the title Yaa in ancient Kamit, just as she has the title Yaa in Akan. So we show her image. We show her as the Afuraitkaitnit female. This is an ancient relief, a lintel from the ancient Kemet over 4,000 years ago. This image of Yaa-Wadjet as an Afuraitkaitnit woman. She's wearing the headdress with the serpent on the headdress and so forth. Up under her image, you will see the Medutu, the hieroglyphs that spell out her name, Yaa-Wadjet, and you'll see the papyrus plant there. Then you also see her planet, which is the planet Yaa, which the whites in their offspring call Uranus. You also see the winged serpent with the disc on the head, and you also see the digestive system. Now, Yaa-Wadjet or Yaa, as she's called in Akan, she's called Yaa-Wadjet, typically in ancient Kemet, but she's also called Yaa in ancient Kemet. She is called Yaa in the Yoruba tradition. She's also called Avedji in the Vodoun tradition. All Afurakani people, wherever we exist, have a relationship with this divinity, and she goes by different descriptive titles and honorific titles according to our language and culture. Yaa is one of the 11 Akradinbosom, the 11 male and female deities animating the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies governing the 7-day week. And as we show in our Akradinbosom books, the 7-day week originated with ancient Khanit people, Nubian people, and of course Akan people have maintained that 7-day week. There are 11 male and female divinities who govern and animate the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that govern the 7-day week, and Yaa is one of those divinities. Her sacred day is the day called Yaa-Da, or the day of the Abosom Yaa, which is Thursday. The Utin Nsoroma, the planet, which is the major shrine for Yaa in our solar system, that planet is also called Yaa. And again, the whites and their offspring call this planet Uranus in English. We have a chart here, the 11 Akradinbosom. They also govern the 11 major body systems in the Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit African Black individual, including the endocrine system, the reproductive system, the immune system, lymphatic system, nervous system, renal system, circulatory system, digestive system, respiratory system, exocrine system, and skeletal systems. And you see the chart here. They are also the spirit forces animating the major body systems of Asase, Afua, our fertile earth mother, including the black earth, river waters, ionosphere, earth's inner core, the red earth, rain waters, earth's outer core, the winds, magnetosphere, stratosphere, and the polar axis. So you will see in the chart we have the 11 Akradinbosom, or the 11 Abosom divinities. By their Akan names, Awusi, Ajua, Benna, Abena, Akua, Awuku, Yao, Ya, Abba, Afi, and Amen Men. Their names in Kemet are Asar, Aset, Herubedeti, Sekhmet, Nebethet, Set, Heru, son of Asar and Aset, Wachet, Nekabet, Het Heru, and Men. And then we show the 11 major body systems that each one of these divinities govern. We also show the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that they animate as well in the chart. Of course, you will see the Abosom, the goddess Yaa, is shown with her planet Yaa, which the whites and offspring call Uranus. And you also see she governs the digestive system. You'll see she's shown in the iconography here as a winged serpent. That winged serpent references her role in the body as contributing to our magnetic field, the magnetosphere. Just like the Earth has a magnetosphere, the electromagnetic field regulated by the North and South Pole and so forth, we have a magnetosphere as well. We have an atmosphere, a magnetosphere as well. So as the winged serpent, that references her role in the body as contributing to our magnetic field, the magnetosphere, through the electromagnetic energy of our life force. Excuse me. So the serpent is her Achinebois, or sacred animal totem. The digestive system is formed, as you see in this image, as a great serpent within the body. When you look at the digestive system from the mouth going through the esophagus and down into the stomach and intestinal area, you have a great serpent within your body. Just as a snake swallows a small rodent whole and it moves through the body of the serpent and then eventually breaks down and so forth through the digestive process, that great serpent is within your body right now. The spiritual force that animates that shrine within your great body is the Abosom, the goddess Yaa-Wadjet. This great serpent within the body is the structure or entity through which we gather our fuel through, of course, consumption of food. The wings on the serpent reference the role of the lungs, where the fanning of the fire of our life force energy through the breath occurs. So just like you generate fire from the fuel of digestion, when you consume food and so forth, and you generate that heat and that fire when you're breaking down the food, and you generate energy from the carbohydrates and the protein and so forth. That's one of the sources of energy. And then, of course, the other source of energy is when you take in oxygen and so forth. That oxygenation process, when you're expanding and contracting the lungs, and you see the lungs as two wings that are expanding and contracting, the wings of a great bird and so forth. The expansion and contraction fans the flames of that fire within you. And of course, when you're breathing heavily and you generate heat and fire, that's where you part of that process. Just like within the earth, the inner core of earth, as well as the outer core of earth, the gravitational field when the earth is spinning on its axis, but then you have that core that's spinning as well, is generating that gravitational field and so forth. But then the magnetosphere surrounding the planet also a magnetic field, that interplay between the magnetosphere and the core of Earth, and that magnetic field, that gravitational field, and so forth. You have an internal source of fire. You have an external fanning of the flames of fire, and that divine fire coming from the sun with regard to our planet, the solar energy bathing our planet, and so forth, and that magnetic field capturing that energy and bringing it into the planet to heat up the planet, and so forth. In the same fashion, we have the lungs on the top, and we have the digestive system beneath. We have that core generating fuel, generating fire, generating fuel in the core, the digestive system, and then the lung structure. We have that fire generating core from taking in the air from the atmosphere, and so forth. You will see that in the iconography of Yaa-Wadjet as the serpentine entity with wings. That a winged serpent is her connection to the bronchial tubes, along with her twin sister Nekebet, the two right and left lungs, and the bronchial tubes within the lungs, and so forth. Those are the wings, that winged energy. And then, of course, the serpentine form is the digestive tract. The serpentine wave of digestion is electric, and the fanning of the fire in the lungs generates magnetism. That's where we get the electromagnetic aspect. When we align with Nana Yaa, we align with the Abosom, the divinity who governs the fuel and fire of digestion and energy distribution for the continuity of our existence. Yet we also tangentially align this fuel and fire necessary to build ourselves, tone ourselves, and burn away impurities, fat, bacteria, and more. It is through the winged serpent that we can restore our toned serpentine form and aerobic wind wellness internally and externally. So when you're consuming food and you're breathing, expanding and contracting, that serpentine, that winged serpentine form is operating within you constantly. So you must go to that winged serpent divinity within you with regard to digestion, consumption, the fuel of fire, and the energy distribution of the fanning of the flames of life force energy within you. You must go to that divinity that governs that process when we're talking about toning and tuning our body based on what we consume. Now, we get to the ritual and dietary aspect. We have to establish first the cosmological foundation for our approach to health and wellness, which is totally divorced from the whites and their offspring. Everything we just talked about has to do with the nature of who we are, our connection to the forces in nature, internally as well as externally. When you see the chart, the 11 Akradinbosom, the 7 major body systems, which are shrines for these 11 divinities within your body. So you have an energetic connection to these forces in nature internally, just like you have Awusi or Alsar governing the black earth and so forth, and then internally you have that black earth or melanin within you. There's an energetic connection between that shrine of that black earth within you and that shrine of the black earth outside of you. You have Yaa-Wadjet, who's governing the winds and magnetosphere and that portion of the core internally dealing with the gravitational field of the planet and so forth. Then internally you have that same process of the serpentine, the winged serpentine figure, the digestive tract, and then the bronchial tubes and so forth within the lungs, so you can connect with this force in nature, not only through earth, but also within your body. You have a shrine for each one of these divinities in your body. Those shrines are centers of resonance and energetic connection, energy points of connection from you internally to them externally. This is how we harmonize ourselves with the world, talking about the planet, Asase Afur, and every aspect of creation, and other created entities, naturally occurring entities, meaning Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people only, as well as plant life, animal life, and mineral life. We are all connected in the same fashion, so we can exchange energy in a harmonious fashion and operate and interface harmoniously with one another in the world. This has nothing to do with the whites and offspring who do not have the energy connection to the forces in nature. So they can have an immune system, lymphatic system, and so forth, but those systems within their bodies do not function as shrines for the spirits that actually animate those systems. They're like, imagine a car that does not have fuel. They have a body, and specifically a damaged body, a melanin recessive body, a car, a vehicle, but it has no engine and has no fuel, so therefore it can't operate in the same fashion as another car that looks similar, but it actually has something moving through it. It has a substance moving through it, which is the fuel, the spiritual force that animates it and allows it to continue to operate. We have a structure, but we have a connection to the actual deities that animate these structures, and these structures are physiological systems. Major systems become shrines for these Abosom, for these Orisha, for these Vodoun, for these Ntorutu divinities. Now, Susuhon ne Adriane, ritual and diet. So once we understand the cosmological foundation for our approach to life in general, inclusive of health and wellness, and the divinity, Nana Yaa, which governs digestion and the energetic distribution of fuel and fire through the breath and so forth, then we get to the ritual practice. All we need now is a simple ritual practice to activate that shrine within us to achieve our optimal health goals. Susuhon is the Akan term for meditation. It is the reflection, contemplation, which is susun, upon the self. Ehun. So when we talk about meditation in the Akan language, it is defined as susuho, the reflection, contemplation, quote unquote, meditation upon the self. The sacred day or da of Yaa is Yada, which is Thursday, as we said. This is why Akan females born on Yada or Thursday are called Ya. It means that their okra, their soul, the divinity dwelling in their head region, the force, spiritual force dwelling in the head region, that deity that governs their head, their soul, their okra, is a child of Nana Yaa, and they were therefore born into the world on her day as proof of this sacred alignment in the spirit realm. That's for children who were born on her day. However, every Afuraitkaitnit person, African black person, were not born on the same day. We're born on different days. And we therefore carry the primary energetic force of the Abosom, the deity governing the specific divinity that governs our day. However, all of the Abosom, the deities, impact us. So, for example, I'm born on Awusi Da or Akwesi Da, which is Sunday. And the Abosom that governs my Kra is Awusi, who's called Awusir, Alsar, and Kamit. He's Awusi, specifically Awusi in connection with Ra, Alsar Ra, but this is Awusi in Akan. You'll see that in the chart. He governs the endocrine system and so forth. So that's the energy that I bring to the Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit communal body. However, the endocrine system works in harmony with the reproductive system and the digestive system and every system in the body. All of the systems work together harmoniously. So Awusi, the divinity Awusi, works in harmony with the divinity Yaa. The endocrine system works in harmony with the digestive system. So you don't have to be born on her day to work in harmony with her. The people who are born on her day have her characteristics. They have those fiery characteristics, and they approach the world and bring her energy into the world. People born on another day, they may have cool, watery characteristics. They bring that energy into the world, but it works. We all work in harmony with one another as Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people. So, a simple ritual to Yaa-Wadjet or Yaa-Avedji on her sacred day, which is Yada, which is Thursday, will begin the process of realignment for AHOODENSEM, health, strength, tuned, balance. So since her day is Thursday, Yada, that simply means the planet Yaa, which the whites and offspring call Uranus, is dominant on that day. It bathes the earth on that day. People born on that day in our community, specifically only Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, when we're born on that day in Akan culture, that's an indication that we were aligned with that divinity pre-incarnation, when we were still an ancestress in the spirit realm, when we're aligned with the divinity that will be the divinity that governs our head and so forth, then we're sent into the world on that day as an indication to the community immediately. Oh, this is a child of Nana Yaa. I'm born on Awusida Sunday. This is a child of Nana Awusi. He carries that energy within his kra, within his soul, the deity in the head region. Female born on Yada, who's a child of Nana Yaa. Oh, we will call her Yaa. That would be her Kradin, her soul name. She'll have other names as well, but her Kradin, her soul name, is Yaa, because her Akra, her soul, is a child of the divinity Yaa, and that's why she was born on her day. She brings that energy into the world. So you can start this process on her day. She's the divinity who governs digestion as well as the energy distribution through that fanning of the flames of the divine life force energy through the lungs and so forth as the winged serpent. We're dealing with digestion, consumption, utilizing that fire to burn away fat, impurities, and so forth, and strengthen, tone, and tune our physical bodies externally, but as well as internally, toning our organs, our glands, our blood vessels, our lymphatic vessels, and so forth. So we're divine instruments, shrines for the energy of the creator and creatress to resonate through. You can start on her day with this process, and it's a process of alignment. AHOODEN, health, strength, and tone, tune, balance. So the ritual process is very simple. When people sometimes you see Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, ancestral ritual, and so forth. It can appear to be elaborate. You have elaborate shrines or dances or artwork or songs and so forth. That's additional. That's extra. The foundational ritual practice is very simple. But then as we grow and develop, because we're an artistic people, we will add a certain artistic flavor that generates a beauty and a harmony, because beauty is the revelation of divine harmony, and harmony is a manifestation of divine order. So when you see something that is harmonious, it is a manifestation of divine order, things functioning in a harmonious fashion. And beauty is simply a revelation of harmony. So when we have something very simple, a simple shrine or a simple ritual movement and so forth, over time we may add some harmonious or quote-unquote beautiful or innovative flavor to that ritual to bring more magnetism to the people who are participating and so forth. But the foundational rituals are very simple. You don't need to be elaborate at all. Your first ritual ever is very simple. That's breathing. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Your first invocation is a cry to the mother, which is an invocation to the great mother divinity with regard to you, that you need nourishment, that you are here and you're ready to receive nourishment and so forth. So that is very simple. That cry eventually comes to speech, and then we can develop songs and chants and so forth. But the foundational invocation, the foundational call is simple. And it's the same with any ritual practice. It begins very simply. So one can simply use a printed image of the divinity Yaa. You can use this image that we have from Ancient Command of Yaa-Wadjet or any other image, just a basic printed image. You could even draw a very simple image, and that represents Yaa. Use that simple image as a focal point in a clean and quiet space. It can be just a corner of the room. You can sit down in a corner of the room with that image, a clean and quiet space. The first thing you do is sit upright but relaxed. Close your eyes. Breathe through your nose and diaphragm as opposed to the mouth and primarily the chest. So you want to when you sit upright but relax, not tense. Relax your body. Close your eyes. Simply begin to breathe through the nose and diaphragm, expanding your stomach, your diaphragm, and contracting as opposed to forcing all of the air into the chest region. Breathing through the nose and diaphragm. Each deep breath is an invocation of the name Yaa-Wadjet and is activating her winged serpent shrine within you. As soon as you begin to breathe deeply and so forth, and the lungs expand and contract, those wings begin to expand and contract, you begin to fan the flames of the divine life force energy, that fire of the Ba and Bayat within you, and you're beginning to invoke the divinity, the name Yaa. When you speak the name Yaa or Wadjet or Yaa and Avedji and so forth, through the breath, that is an invocation of her name as you start the breathing process, and is activating her winged serpent shrine within you. You're beginning to generate that heat, that fire of Nana Yaa within you. As you become relaxed and centered, listen for, attuned to your heartbeat. When you first sit down, you may not hear or attune to your heartbeat, but you will notice as you begin to breathe, sitting relaxed, breathing through the nose and diaphragm with your eyes closed, you'll be able to attune to your heartbeat, and it won't just be, you won't just feel it in your chest, but you'll feel it pulsing through your blood vessels, through your hands, through your feet, through your legs, your arms, and so forth. Throughout your body, you'll feel that pulsing, that palpitation, and so forth, that pulse. So attune to your heartbeat. Then begin to count your heartbeat silently up to 100 as you inhale and exhale in a relaxed fashion. By the time you get to 100 heartbeats as you're sitting relaxed, you become more balanced, equilibrated, and so forth. And at this stage, you will be more receptive and in tune. It's just like somebody, they sit down and start reading a book and people are walking around, but at some point they focus in and people could say something to them and they're not paying attention because they're so focused in with pinpointed focus on what they're reading and studying. They become internalized as opposed to externalized. As you become relaxed and so forth, those distractions on the outside will begin to dissipate. You'll be more focused internally as you're counting your heartbeats up to 100, inhaling and exhaling in a relaxed fashion. Now you become more receptive and in tune. Then you ask Nana Yaa for the direction and empowerment that you need on this wellness journey. You don't have to speak. All you have to do is project the images and the desire of what you need. The Abosom know what we need, and they know how to dispense their energy to us so our energy can be replenished, and so we can receive that which we actually need. Not just things that we want, but things that we need, things that are in harmony with divine order. The Abosom don't obey your every wish and command. They're not like Aladdin in a bottle. They only adhere to what the Supreme Being, Nyamewa, Nyame, Aminet, Amen, the Great Mother and Great Father, direct for us to have based on divine order, based on our energetic complex, our unique configuration of energy, how we are to disseminate that into the Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit community and to the natural world and so forth. And the Abosom will assist us with that. It will empower us, replenish our energy, and direct us on the use of that divine power to achieve that harmonious goal of functioning harmoniously in the world according to our nature. They know exactly what we need, and when we're ready to receive that, we invoke them. It's no different than a mother with a new child. The mother knows that the child, when the child is sleeping, that eventually the child is going to awaken and they're going to want and need the milk. She knows what time the child is going to awaken and so forth, and she's ready with her breast to dispense that milk. But she doesn't force it on the child. She allows the child to sleep. When the child awakens and opens his or her eyes and begins that ritual invocation, that ritual prayer, that ritual chant, which is a cry to the Great Mother, that ritual invocation or prayer to the Great Mother is an announcement that I'm ready to receive the energy and the nutrients and the nourishment that you have within you, and then the mother dispenses that nourishment to the child. In the same fashion, the Abosom know exactly what we need when we're asleep, but then we awaken, we open our eyes and open our ears and so forth, and we align with the divinity. We're invoking the divinity ritually to say, I am ready to receive that dispensation of energy you have for me to fortify that shrine of yours within me so I can operate optimally. So You can project energy in the form of thoughts, in the form of thought forms, images, desires, and so forth. That energetic projection to Nana Yaa is an invocation in and of itself. So you don't, even if you don't know any ancestral language, you don't need to know any ancestral language to project your energy, your desire, your need to align with the divinity. When you focus on her and project that desire, project those images in your spirit, in your mind, and so forth, then she will align with that. In fact, if you think about a deaf person in an Akan community, in a Yoruba community, in a Igbo community, in a Hoodoo community, and so forth, they can't speak. Does that mean they can't align with the forces in nature? Of course not. They have a physical body. They have physical shrines of every divinity within their bodies. They have a spirit body, and the energetic configuration of their spirit body is unique. And when they operate and move and project their energy, they link their energy to the forces in nature, as well as plant life, animal life, mineral life, and other Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people. In the same fashion, we were stripped of our capacity to speak the fluent language consistently. We relearned that language from our Nananom and Samanfo, as well as other sources and so forth, connecting with brothers and sisters who still speak the language fluently, but our Nananom and Samanfo, our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors, they will speak to us in our ancestral language at the shrine, in dreams and so forth, and we will understand exactly what they're saying. No different than if you visited someone on the continent and they began to speak to you in ancestral language, but they used gestures, pointing and showing you things, pointing at something and speaking the name of that thing, and urge you to speak the name and repeat what they're saying. You begin to understand what they are saying. In the same fashion, the Abosom and Nananom and Samanfo, the deities and ancestral spirits, they will teach, they will show you through their ancestral language. And when you project your energy to them, you don't have to speak the language. You can project, just like a person who is deaf in the community. They actually have a greater degree of protection from the Nananom and Samanfo because of that condition. So they receive special attention. Just like we have someone who's deaf in the community and the family, they receive special attention and protection from the family and community, as they should. In the same fashion, when we became culturally deaf, quote unquote, on the surface, then we receive special attention from our Nananom and Samanfo, our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors here in North America. And this is how we're able to maintain ancestral religious practice. So even though you don't speak the ancestral language fluently, you can project those images of what you need to the divinity, to that great mother divinity. Just like the child doesn't speak the language of the mother yet. The child won't begin to speak until a number of months later. But that invocation, that cry, is letting the mother know, I'm ready to receive, and the mother responds. Our invocation, our projection of our energetic forms, thought forms, and so forth is an invocation and a provocation of Nana Yaa to dispense her energy to us. Now, and then once you do that, then you ask for that direction and empowerment through that projection, those invocations. You ask for that which you need on this wellness journey. Now, the thoughts, images, urges, smells, etc. that arise during that meditative ritual practice, those are actually messages that you will be able to contextualize later after the ritual is complete, and sometimes in the midst of that ritual practice. Certain images will arise in your mind, or thoughts or urges or even smells or, experiences and so forth that you may initially assume are random, but the more receptive you become and focused you become, you'll be able to string those images and urges and thoughts and experiences together and realize they have the specific signature of Nana Yaa, and they're all woven together, and you'll be able to understand how she was communicating in that fashion. The more you focus on the image of Yaa internally and also the breathing, the more focused and directive her messages, images will become. So that is a very simple process. Sitting down, closing your eyes, breathing, becoming relaxed internally and so forth. Each deep breath is an invocation of the name Yaa-Wadjet and activating her winged serpent shrine within you. You become more relaxed and centered. Then you listen, attune for your heartbeat. Begin to count those heartbeats up to around 100 as you inhale and exhale in a relaxed fashion. At this stage, you become more receptive and in tune, and then you ask Nana Yaa for her direction and empowerment on this wellness journey that she governs through the digestive system and respiratory system and so forth. When you feel the ritual is complete, then you can arise from your seated position. You can project and ask Nana Yaa through a projection, through that desire, is it okay for me to end? If you feel that it is okay, because if it's not, you'll feel a negative energy push. But if it is, you feel that harmonious, flow, then that's the completion of that ritual set. That is a ritual reset. Now the final piece is Adriani, which is the Khan term for food or diet. The root of the name Wadjet is watch, which in one aspect simply means green. The papyrus plant, or the watch plant, shown in the Medutu, the hieroglyphs spelling her name, Wadjet, is sacred to Wadjet, to Yaa. Her Ochin, her planet, also has a greenish blue hue. The green color includes the importance of plant-based food and medicine. Green is also the color we see when renewal in nature takes place after the winter season. And we're talking about renewing our bodies just like there's a renewal on the body of the Earth Mother, and that green manifests renewal within our bodies. The divinity who governs that color green is the divinity we're dealing with. Moreover, our star, the Aten, the sun, is considered a green star. We therefore see Wadjet as a serpent encircling the Aten, the sun, in the imagery of Khanit and Kamit. Now, one of the simplest ways to begin the weight loss process, which has worked for numerous people we have suggested this to over the years, is to start off by simply cutting your portions by 1/2. For example, if you were eating pizza or pasta for lunch, you take your normal serving, cut it in half, throw away the other half, and consume that serving. Now, first and foremost, you're guaranteed weight loss. And we know people who've lost 50, 60, 70 pounds simply by purchasing the exact same food that they always purchase. They haven't changed their diet at all. They simply cut the portions in half and throw it away, and the only thing left is half of the food, half of the calories. Mathematically, it's impossible for your body to sustain itself at the same weight and size. When you're cutting in half, you go from, say, 2,200 calories to 1,100. Your body must respond. When you think about that, you don't psych yourself out by saying, well, listen, I don't want to throw food away. That's a waste of food. Actually, when you actually pay attention and focus, you're already throwing half of your food away every single time you eat the kinds of foods that are not foods that are fully nutritious. For example, if you went to McDonald's and bought a Big Mac and fries and a large Sprite or something, there's a certain degree of nutrients, nourishment, protein, carbohydrates, and so forth in a meal like that, but then a large percentage of that meal really within your body becomes debris. Part of the meal you're consuming and using to your best benefit to strengthen your body and so forth, but then the other part you're really throwing away. But instead of throwing away in the garbage in the receptacle external from you, you're throwing it away in your body, and it's landing within your organs, on the muscle tissues and so forth, as fat, as bacteria, and it's causing problems with regard to your capacity to function optimally. So you're already throwing half of your food away every time you eat certain kinds of foods that are not fully nutritious. That happens every single day. You're simply throwing the debris or the refuse out internally, and it's landing on your body and weighing your body down and putting pressure on your joints and pressure on your organs and pressure on your glands and causing you to be less receptive and so forth. What we're talking about here is a very simple process. Starting out, anyone can engage this process. Purchase what you normally purchase, cut it in half, and throw the other half away. And as we said, many people have done that and achieved 60, 70-pound weight loss alone. And some of those individuals, that's all they did. They didn't do any exercise. They didn't change their diet. They just decided they just wanted to cut their portions in half, and they lost all of the weight they needed. And when you begin to engage that process, you will notice that within just a few days, your stomach will begin to contract internally as an organ. It's not stretched out as an organ. So the amount of food you used to be able to eat, you become full more quickly. This notion of eating until you're full, that's not our ancestral way. That's a Eurocentric approach. That's based on gluttony. That's based on lust and so forth. Eating until you're stuffed and thinking once you're stuffed and you can't move well and so forth, that means that you've reached your capacity. That's not our way of eating. You don't see that naturally in any other realm. You don't see that in the animal realm. You don't see zebras consuming until they're stuffed and so forth, or other animals, birds and so forth. They eat what they need to eat and then they stop. They get the nourishment that they need and then they instinctively cease that process. We're the same way instinctively when we adhere to our own culture, to the energetic force within us. We instinctively realize when we have reached the capacity we need to reach, and then we stop. We don't go overboard and continue to consume because it's just a habit, which leads to obesity and disease and so forth. So we stop that process. So we don't need to overconsume in the first place. But this is a way that people engage that process. Now, avoiding snacks and simply cutting every meal you eat in half will guarantee weight loss. And we've seen this with the people we've recommended this to for years and years, where they maintain the weight loss, they keep the weight loss off. However, we go further in this process because we're dealing with our ancestral religious values approach. You can also begin to incorporate more water, number one, during the day. Increase fruits, nuts, vegetables, and green foods, watch, meaning green, Yaa-Wadjet, and so forth, and begin to reduce fried foods, meat, and sugary foods. The reason why this initial approach works for everyone is because it does not require people initially to change their diet. It simply reduces portion size. Your body is forced to respond. Now, if you make a mistake, you do not become depressed or deflated. You simply reset and keep going. This is not a contest or a challenge. This is not for anybody else. This is specifically for you. So you're not concerned about what anybody else is thinking. You're not concerned about people focusing on, well, what is she doing, or why did she stop? Or you don't care about what other people think. This has nothing to do with them. This has to do specifically with you. If you live in a building and you have to walk up 2 or 3 flights of stairs every day, and it's taxing upon your system. We see people sometimes they have to walk up 2 or 3 flights of stairs and they have to stop and breathe and so forth. They don't sleep very soundly all of the time. If they had to run and catch a bus, run a quarter of a block to catch a bus or Uber or something like that, they're winded and so forth. That's like a chronic back pain. There's a chronic level of uncomfortability just on a basic level, day in and day out. However, we begin to accept that chronic level of discomfort as normative. But in reality, it is not normative. But when you begin to engage this process, cutting down the portion sizes, and then you're increasing plant-based foods and so forth, and you're beginning to decrease the foods and so forth that are not nutritious and so forth, then what you begin to find is immediately there's an upsurge in energy. Even immediately within the first couple of days of cutting the portion sizes down, you begin to notice an increase in energy that is sustained throughout the day. Even when you first cut the portion size and you don't eat to excess, you don't eat until you're full, then you don't get to that point where you eat where you're so full that you're tired and you don't want to do anything, or you get sleepy and so forth. The very first time you cut the portion size, you eat, you fill yourself up with the nutrients that you need, you throw the other portion away, and you're not tired after you eat. You're okay. Now, you may psychologically say, oh, I'm still hungry, but that's not hungry. That's just a habit. Your body has received nourishment. It's received protein. It's received carbohydrates. It's received some vitamins and minerals and so forth. It has been fed. The idea, the habitual pattern of continuing to consume food after you've already received the nourishment that you need, that's just a habit, but that will dissipate within a couple of days as your organ, your stomach begins to shrink rather quickly. But the first process is you'll notice immediately there's an upsurge in energy because you haven't eaten to excess, so you're not sleepy after you've eaten. You'll notice throughout the course of the day, as you continue this process, that you will sleep more soundly. You have the capacity to, move and operate and have more energy throughout the course of the day. That chronic level of discomfort, pressure on organs, pressure on bones, pressure on joints, pressure on glands and so forth, pressure on blood vessels, that will begin to lift, and you will have more energy on a daily basis throughout the course of the day that's sustained. So if you make a mistake, you don't become depressed, deflated, you just get right back on it and keep going. The only time people often they get depressed, deflated, they're concerned about what other people will think very often. This has nothing to do with them. This has to do with your energy, and you're increasing your level of energy and wellness. This has to do with you. It has to do with nobody else. So you're not concerned with what other people are thinking. Now, the meditation with Yaa can begin on Yada, Thursday, and continue each day for 10 or 15 minutes. Some will eventually engage that particular ritual process once a week on Yada, on the day of the divinity Yaa. And again, it doesn't have to do with some people are disciplined and some people are not. That's totally inaccurate. You have everything within you internally and externally that any other human being has. For example, if you see someone who runs 5 miles and so forth every morning, you say, well, that's discipline. I could never achieve that. They couldn't do it when they first started. You may run a half a block and become very winded. You may run a half a block the next day and you become very winded. But what you're doing is you're forcing your body to respond. The third day, you'll be able to run that half a block and you're not winded. And you'll get to 3/4 of a block. And then a few days later, a full block and you're not winded. You keep going day by day, week by week, month by month. You'll get to 2, 3, 4 blocks a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, and you will get to the point where you can run 5 miles and not go through any, major problem. You'll be able to do it with ease. The same way anybody else got to that point. They weren't born running 5 miles. They had to, develop that capacity. They had to increase their capacity. Any individual can engage that process. It's not about, as we said earlier, about some special capacity for discipline. That is totally inaccurate. You have everything that everybody else has. Now, incorporating our cosmological understanding of the Abosom, the deity, governing the fuel and fire of digestion and energetic distribution, invoking her directly by name, ritually, and transforming lifestyle is the simple path to regaining balance. So we incorporate our cosmological understanding. First, we're grounded in that knowledge, that understanding of the Obosom Yaa, knowing what her shrine in our body is, her physical shrine. And when we engage the ritual process through the breath and so forth and bring that energy into her shrine and activates her shrine, her energy envelops us and so forth. And because she's governing that fuel and fire of digestion and energetic redistribution through the digestive tract and the lungs, the bronchial tubes and the lungs and so forth, then we're aligning with her, and we invoke her directly by name so we can communicate directly with her and let her know, just like the child, I'm ready to receive that dispensation of energy to help me with my fuel and fire of consumption, digestion, and energy redistribution. You invoke her by name ritually. She dispenses that energy just like the mother is ready to dispense that milk, and she does. You're filled with that nourishment, and now you're empowered to move forward in your health journey and sustain it. If you engage in legitimate mistakes, you engage the ritual process. This is part of our culture. When we make legitimate mistakes, we ritually incorporate law and ritually restore balance. That's what the ritual process is for, to ritually incorporate law and ritually restore balance. We have been conditioned emotionally and mentally to embrace beliefs about what we can and cannot do by our enemies, the whites and their offspring. This is psychological warfare waged against us to keep us mentally enslaved. During enslavement, they sought to make us believe that we could never wage war against them and free ourselves. Yet, those of us who were focused did just that. Today, they seek to enslave us mentally and emotionally with self-doubt so that we can continue to die of preventable diseases. High blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, all of these diseases are preventable. They want us to be mentally and emotionally enslaved with self-doubt by planting the seeds of self-doubt fraudulently within our minds, within our spirits, so we won't move forward, and therefore we will continue to die of preventable diseases that impacts our children, our families, our community. This is what the whites and their offspring continue to do. The same people who enslaved us are the same people who've reincarnated through their descendants and are seeking to enslave our bodies. The same people, for example, who owned the tobacco plantations before cotton was the major cash crop. During the enslavement era, tobacco was the major cash crop, so our people were enslaved, transported from the continent of Afuraitkaitnit to North America to pick cotton, to enrich the whites and their offspring, our enemies. Yet we were forced to work from sunup to sundown. We were enslaved and our bodies were literally worked to death on tobacco plantations. Today, the same owners of those exact same tobacco plantations, their descendants, and those who return through their descendants, still on those tobacco plantations, and that tobacco is what is used in the manufacturing of the various cigarettes of the various cigarette companies. And then we go to the store, convenience store and gas station, and we go and pick tobacco. We pick tobacco off of the shelves of convenience stores, gas stations, and so forth. And when that tobacco is brought into our lungs, we literally work our lungs and our bodies to death, enriching the tobacco plantation owner, the whites and their offspring, by being worked to death. The same people who worked us to death on tobacco plantations are the same owners of tobacco plantations now and are working us to death when we pick tobacco and smoke it. And by the way, you have that that Arab middleman who used to capture some of our people and sell them to the whites and their offspring, their Eurasian brother, as commodities and so forth. You have that Arab middleman or that white Hindu middleman or that Asian middleman or middlewoman. You have the Asians during the Tang dynasty in China, the 8th century, who enslaved some Afuraitkaitnit people. Now they're returned as the middlemen, capturing our people up as customers for the white tobacco plantation owners, cigarette company owners, and so forth. They capture us as customers. We pick the tobacco. We enrich the middleman, the Asian, the Arab, the Hindu, and so forth. And then we also enrich the white tobacco plantation owner while we are being worked to death by the tobacco. That's what's happening with tobacco. That's what's happening with marijuana, which was also hemp was also a crop that we were forced and enslaved to pick. That's what's happening with alcohol, heroin, cocaine. They gave cocaine to enslave people to make them work longer hours in the field and so forth, which many people don't know. All these different things happened in the past. They're happening now. If we participate, we must recognize the whites and their offspring as our absolute enemies. who incarnated spirits of disorder without exception. They will continue to be our enemies until they become extinct, until we make them extinct. They will engage in the same parasitic process. Cancerous cells seek only to consume and destroy the healthy cells within the body. The way you stop cancerous cells is not to hold hands and sing kumbaya with them. It is to isolate them and exterminate them from the body. That is the divine response. The immune and lymphatic systems are designed by the Supreme Being to isolate, kill, and expel the cancerous agents from the body. That is the divine response. The whites and their offspring are the cancerous cells within the body of black humanity who seek only to consume and destroy. And they will always seek to enslave, as they did in the past, as they continue to do today, as cancerous parasitic entities. Parasites need a host to survive. So they seek to enslave us mentally and emotionally with self-doubt so that we can continue to die of preventable diseases, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, and that keeps us from liberating ourselves and establishing independent, sovereign nations that we can defend against them while we're in a state of chronic disease. The promotion of embracing gluttony and excess as a form of independence, which actually leads to obesity and disease, is an act of genocidal warfare by the whites and their offspring against us. Our ancestral culture is the remedy. So when they promote gluttony and excess, whether it's television and music, schools, universities, movies, literature, pseudo-spirituality, they teach you, well, you do whatever you feel like doing, whenever you feel like doing it, and don't let anybody tell you to do different, because if you want to stuff yourself, then go ahead. If you want to be gluttonous, if you want to live in excess, if you want to be lustful, they teach moral relativism, all things, and there's no ignorant question or there's no wrong answer and all of this foolishness. They know that's 100% inaccurate. That is designed to make you embrace gluttony, embrace excess, embrace lust, embrace misguided desire, embrace self-destructive activity. So while they're running major corporations, while they're running the military, while they're running, the various branches of the military and controlling the world, and those in the upper echelons are not allowing themselves to be controlled by excess and lust in that capacity, but they're controlled by excess and lust and malice with regard to trying to control our people in the world and so forth. They will teach our people eat, drink, smoke, be promiscuous, be self-destructive, and that's a form of spiritual development, because you're not allowing yourself to be controlled by anyone. You're spiritually free. That's pure stupidity. But it's an act of genocidal warfare. Obesity and disease is actually the result of a genocidal war being waged against Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people. They want our bodies to be enslaved. They want their products, their foodstuffs to be in our bodies, enslaving our organs, enslaving our glands, enslaving our blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, enslaving and putting pressure on our joints and everything else. So we're always in a state of chronic disease on some level. And we can't function optimally. We can't be receptive optimally. We won't attune to those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to attune to so that we can engage the nation-building process, build and develop our families, establish sovereign nations, and wage war and eradicate them, the whites and their offspring, as our enemies. They don't want us to focus in that fashion. They just want us to be lustful, self-destructive, and die early. That's the purpose. But our ancestral culture is the remedy. The reality is each Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit individual has an okra, a soul, a deity that dwells in the head region, assigned to the head. The okra as it's called in Akan, is called the Ka and Kayet, in Khanit and Kamit. It's called the Ori Inu, the inner Ori, or the inner spiritual head in Yoruba. It is called the Selido in Vodoun. Your okra, The soul is your personal divinity. It is a deity assigned to you, dwelling in the head region, assigned to you by the Supreme Being, Great Mother and Great Father. Inyamewa and Inyame, pre-incarnation, that deity dwells in your head region. The divine function you are to execute in the world is encoded within that divinity's energy complex and so forth, just like your brain is an entity dwelling in your head region. It has the blueprint for how all the cells and organs and glands and so forth in your body are to operate. In your spirit body, you have an entity dwelling in the head region of the spirit body. That is the Ka, the Kayet, the soul, the Okrawa, the soul, a deity that dwells in the head region that has the blueprint of how you to execute your function in the world as a unique entity carrying the unique configuration of energy and consciousness into the world. Your personal divinity, a child of the great divinity. It often manifests as a strong pull in your head towards thoughts, intentions, and actions which are harmonious with divine order and repels you from thoughts, intentions, and actions that would otherwise place you out of harmony with order. Through ritual practice, this pull in the head opens up to full communication with this Obosom, with this Orisha, with this Vodoun, with this divinity. The deity governing your head operates in harmony with all of the deities' spirit forces in creation, just as, for example, your pituitary gland operates in harmony with the other 70 plus glands and organs in your body. Your personal head divinity, your Okra, thus operates in harmony with Nana Yaa. Nana Yaa is governing your digestive and aspect of your respiratory functioning right now as you read this. Your alignment with her ritually realizes the expansion of that same functional role within the digestive and respiratory structures. It expands that functional role to the restoration of balance through ritual and diet for your body's health and renewal externally and internally, so that you can become toned or tuned externally as well as internally, so you can be spiritually receptive and execute your function in creation harmoniously. What the whites and their offspring cannot share because of their lack of capacity to communicate with any of the Abosom, Orisha, Vodoun, Ntorotu, and so forth. They do not have the capacity to do that. Only Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people have that capacity as children of the Abosom, the Orisha, the Vodoun, and so forth. What they cannot share because of their lack of capacity is the reality that once you begin to engage the deities ritually, you begin to instinctively change direction. You don't have to be forced to change direction. You begin to instinctively change direction. And that direction is towards divine order. This is why they keep us and seek to keep us from embracing our ancestral religious practices and try to teach us that our traditions are demonic and so forth. Jesus, Yeshua, Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, Muhammad, Allah, Yahweh, Buddha, Brahman, all of these characters are fictional cartoon characters who never existed of any form or of any race whatsoever, as we've proven in our book, Kukutuntum, the Ancestral Jurisdiction. So all of those pseudo-religions of the whites and their offspring are 100% garbage. Jesus never existed. There was no Yeshua, Yahweh Shah, Isa. There was no Muhammad, black or white. There was no Buddha. There was no Mahavira. There was no Yahweh, Allah, and so forth. We prove how these fictional clown cartoon characters were manufactured by the whites and their offspring in our book Kukutuntum in detail in order to enslave the minds of our people. They want us to follow them and worship them in the form of these fake cartoon characters, spirits, and deities. They don't want us to align with the actual forces in nature, because then we will attune to harmony and order, which also includes the lymphatic and immune response of exterminating the cancerous cells and entities, inclusive of the whites and their offspring, from our communal black body. So they don't want us to instinctively become drawn to divine order, because that means the end of their control over us and their existence. This is why they seek to demonize ancestral religion. And of course, we embrace it fully, and we stamp out their fake religions, pseudo-religions. So, when you engage the divinities ritually, you begin to instinctively change direction. You unearth the natural urge to change your diet that's coming up from within your core, the shrines of the Abosom, the divinities, the Orisha within you, within your physical body. Those urges naturally arise when you link your energy with theirs, because they are spirits that embody divine order. So you unearth the natural urge to change your diet, the natural urge to begin some form of exercise, the natural urge to get enough sleep, the natural urge to engage in ritual consistently, the natural urge to consume things mentally, what you see, read, hear, that are beneficial to you spiritually, and reject that which never really served you well. You change your focus, approach, and consumption of all things inclusive of relationships, naturally, instinctively. When you operate instinctively, rooted in guidance from your Akra, the divinity in your head region, your diet and exercise will cause you to settle naturally at the weight that your spirit genetic structure was born to carry harmoniously. When we say your spirit genetic structure, you have your physical body, you receive DNA from the father's side, DNA from the mother's side. You also receive patriclan, abosom, and matriclan abosom, forces in nature that have governed your patriclan ancestresses and ancestors, and your matriclan ancestresses and ancestors for millennia. And then you have the divinity that governs the head. And that unique triangular structure of the divinity that governs the head at the apex, and the patriclan and matriclan divinities, that combination of energy, just like the combination of the Y chromosomal DNA from the father and the mitochondrial DNA from the mother, that blends to create that natural vessel for you to take up a residence in, that unique configuration of energy. That's a spirit genetic inheritance. You carry the energy of a specific divinity. You are to carry that into the world when you operate in a harmonious fashion, and you're guided by that divinity that operates through the spiritual head. Then you engage in activity, diet, exercise, interactions, and so forth that are harmonious. Then your weight will naturally settle at the level that you spirit genetically inherited harmoniously. We're not talking about the inheritance of bad behaviors and bad diets and so forth, and we just perpetuate a negative cycle. We're talking about spirit genetic inheritance, and your spirit genetic structure carries a certain balanced level of weight and so forth, and you will rest at that. You will, alight upon that when you align with the Kra harmoniously. So ritual is the key to AHOODENSEM, the health, the toning, the tuning of the body internally, externally, and spiritually. Our ancestral culture contains everything we need to bring balance to ourselves. So begin your journey today. AHOODENSEM means matters or affairs, asem of health, strength. AHOODENSEM. So this is the information we put forward. We want to lay that cosmological foundation rooted in our ancestral religious values, and then a simple ritual practice to engage that process so we can achieve AHOODENSEM, health, but that means a toned, but specifically a tuned body, tuned internally, organs, glands, vessels, and so forth, externally, muscular structure and so forth, but also spiritually attuned to the divinity in the head region, your patriclan and matriclan abosom divinities, the Nananom Nsamafo, your spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors for their proper guidance and wisdom, and the forces in nature, the Abosom, who empower and replenish the power that they dispense to you, so you can utilize that power to execute your function in creation, so you can wield that power independently and engage every situation in life in a harmonious fashion. With regard to the Akradinbosom, you have seen on our website, and you will see that we have posted the dates of our different Dubaku Akradinbosom training intensive and ritual retreats. So those retreats are training intensive on all 11 of the Akradinbosom, these major divinities that animate the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that govern the 7-day week, also governing the 11 major body systems, and of course the 11 major body systems on Earth and all natural cycles on Earth and so forth. We have published our books on the Akradinbosom book series. Volume 1 and 2 are out. Volume 3 and 4 are coming very soon. We have these training intensive and ritual retreats which begin next weekend, Savannah, Saturday and Sunday. Then Monday, Memorial Day, the one-day training, all-day training in Jacksonville, Florida. The following weekend, June 2nd in Washington, D.C. The following weekend after that, Atlanta, June 9th. The next weekend, June 15th, Philadelphia. June 16th is Toronto, Canada. Then on June 29th, we have Durham, North Carolina. We are now at the deadline for registration for those first 3 events, or first 4 rather. Savannah, Jacksonville, which is next weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and then Washington, D.C. and Atlanta on the June 2nd and June 9th. We're at the deadline for registration. We're only registering between 20 and 25 people, depending on the venue for each one. There are, in Savannah, many of the spots are taken. The same with a couple of the other places. So if you are going to attend, register now. You can register with a deposit. For the Savannah retreat, it's 2 days. All of the other dates is 1 day, but Savannah is 2 days. The registration fee is $100 because it's 2 days. All of the other dates in the other cities are 1 day, so it's $60. But it's you receive the 4 books, Akradinbosom Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are really $10 each. So you receive those 4 books. And then you also receive a vegan meal and so forth. The Savannah retreat also includes a Gullah heritage tour on the 2nd day and so forth, but that's just for Savannah. That's $100. But every other training is a 1-day training, a 6-hour all-day training in Jacksonville on Memorial Day on Monday, in Washington, D.C. on June 2nd, Atlanta, June 9th, Philadelphia, all these other dates, Toronto, Durham, North Carolina, are all $60. You receive the 4 books for that fee, and then you also the training, of course, the 4 books and the vegan food. So you can make a deposit, 50% of the fee, $50 for Savannah, $30 for any of the other cities. You can reserve your space with that 50% deposit, and then you can pay the other half, the other $50 or the other $30, depending on which one you go to, next week or the following week. So go to our Dubaku page. We are at the deadline for registration now. So go to the page, reserve your space. Once the spaces are full, then registration will be closed. So if you have any questions about that process, of course, hit us up, Kwesi Akan on Facebook, Ojirafo Akan on Facebook, kwesiakan@gmail.com. Of course, go to our website, ojirafo.com, and so forth. And once again, as we said at the beginning of the broadcast, please support Ama and JoJo with their crowdfunding effort for the legal fees. Please support that process so they can overcome that specific obstacle and continue with their nation-building activities in the community. So, again, Yerase, we thank you for tuning into this broadcast. And Yebeshiabio, we will meet again. Heads up.